We don't want nuclear war, and we don't want 30,000 drones in the skies and secret arrest of citizens. The system is showing us it's a bunch of tyrants. And then if we don't want war and conflict, we're traitors. No, they are the traitors. And is it not treason when they're launching wars under UN authority? They're not going to Congress. They're saying, we'll arrest citizens and kill citizens. I mean, I saw Lindsey Graham on TV. He goes, yeah, of course the NDAA is for citizens. We won't just arrest you. We'll kill you without a trial. I mean, they are trying to come out in the open and hide their tyranny in plain view and appeal to authority. And it's so real. You talk about nuclear war. All the elites, as you know, sir. But for the audience, you're not hyping this. They're building bunkers. The Chinese are saying, prepare for nuclear war. The Russians are threatening, saying, don't go into Syria. I mean, I've not seen rhetoric like this even at the height of the Cold War. I mean, it's crazy. And it's like World War I or World War II, but now we got nukes and bioweapons. We're sleepwalking into oblivion and have just gotten so used to it, and people are watching football games. It has that same eeriness that I saw historians write about before the Great Wars. I know you were in World War II. So, I mean, is that what your gut is telling you and your intellect as well, sir?
I'm saying that the problem lies with our responsibility as Americans. Our responsibility here is to throw this President Obama out of office. Because if we're not willing to do that, we are not going to survive.
You're saying that's a signal to the world that there's big changes and the power structure is being reversed.
The point is the British Empire, which controls Wall Street. Remember, Wall Street has been from the beginning a British faction. Most of our presidents, I could go through them.
Well, they set up CFR in New York to control it on record. It's all British intelligence.
Sure it is. But the point is, if the problem is the killing of Kennedy and the entry into a long war of about 10 years in Indochina was intentional, and Kennedy opposed that, and he was killed to get him out of the way to get that war unclosed. That war destroyed an impetus which existed under Kennedy for projects which would rebuild this nation in a way which we would today envy. What has happened, we have essentially 3 generations of people who do not know, as adult experience, they do not know what the United States represented under Eisenhower and Kennedy, and of course also Roosevelt before. They don't know that. They've been terrorized by what a succession of wars. Wars all over. Officer of our system.
Well, that's my next point, sir. All the top brass has come out and said a war on Iran is insane. Most of the Israeli people, the head of Mossad was fired a year ago because he wouldn't go along with it. I mean, this is so insane. The way I've heard it described by top CIA analyst Ray McGovern is, it is a roll of the dice. And there isn't a good number on the die. It just runs from bad to worse. You know, a 6 is total nuclear war. A 1 is doubling of gas prices, regional war, terror attacks, economies going under. But that's the neo-feudalistic British imperial model. And they say it's a post-industrial world. They're digging in. They've got seed vaults. They're building bunkers. I mean, the establishment, as you know, is acting like they're getting ready for World War III.
Absolutely. But the point is, I look at it from the standpoint. Complaining doesn't get you anywhere. What do we do about it?
What do we do then?
And the point is, we have to arouse the American people in a different way than we usually do. Like what happened after Pearl Harbor. We had a situation where Roosevelt knew that the attack on Pearl Harbor was coming, but he also knew that most of the Americans would not fight the Japanese under those conditions and others. So therefore, we did not act to defend Pearl Harbor, even though we know it was happening, because the naval and army forces commanding the position in Pearl Harbor, for example, were not going to do anything to stop it. So therefore, Roosevelt was mobilized to mobilize us to war because he knew under those conditions, of an actual direct attack on the United States by Japan would mobilize the American forces. And I was in New York at that time when this happened, that Sunday. And I was walking across from Midtown Manhattan, from east side to west side, for a business appointment. And as I walked into this place, I got this hotel I went to meet my people. I heard the voice of Roosevelt coming over the phone, over the reports on Roosevelt coming over. And I looked at what happened to the people, and in this 2 or 3 hours following that noontime report, I saw a transformation of the American people in New York City as elsewhere. They were screaming, trying to get enlisted in the army to defend the United States. And that was not the case in the day or so before the Pearl Harbor event. Now, the problem is, I'm not looking for a Pearl Harbor-like event right now, but the problem here is the lack of competent leadership from leading centers, people in government, as in the Senate, for example, in particular, who know this stuff. They know it, but they're not doing a damn thing about it because they don't think it's safe, politically safe for them to do it. That is a result of the demoralization of our population over 3 generations, that is among adults, from the killing of Kennedy, and especially from the experience of the launching of the actual prolonged Indochina War. But we have been going through war.
I understand, sir. So what is the time frame? I mean, there's a big awakening happening, but it's not coordinated. The Congress has the lowest approval rating. Obama's unpopular. But it doesn't matter what we want or makes sense. 70+% don't want all these wars. They just keep going forward. So what do you see happening if the British puppet, the globalist puppet, Obama, is not removed?
Well, what you've got now, the problem is you have no guts, especially represented by all of the Republican candidates and the one and plus minus the Democratic candidate. If you have that list of candidates, presidential candidates or pre-candidates, this nation is demoralized. That kind of electing that kind of junk to be the leading candidates for the direct election? You do that? You tolerate that? You tolerate these clowns?
Well, why don't the banksters, centered in and around London, as you say, why do they want us so demoralized? I guess so that we follow every order.
Right. They want they're going to intend to reduce the population of the United States, among other places, You don't think we're going to come out of this as spectators to this great war?
No.
We are among the targeted victims of this war. And if we can't...
Let's explain. The British play everybody off against each other. See, people think of it as you pick one side or the other. No. Think about the third position of the group manipulating you. That's what the Rothschilds have always done. You've written about them. They're all supporting this. Here's David Rockefeller from his memoir. We are on the verge of a global transformation. We're on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order. Here's another one, speaking in the New York Times about how great Mao Zedong is. Here's a quote out of his memoirs, page 405. Some even believe we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalist and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. But they're not one world, everybody work together and be friends. They're one world corporate global empire.
It's monetarism. That's monetarism. I say the problem is, the solution is, my experience internationally, and knowing people in other countries, leading circles in other countries, important nations, I know that if the people of the United States would say what they are thinking now, in a large degree, they're thinking that this collection of Republican candidates and this Democratic candidate, Obama, the president, that as long as these people are treated with respect, the American people are going to submit, and they will not fight. And if they will not fight, we're duck soup. And the problem is our politics stinks as a result of 3 generations, effectively, in terms of adults, what happened when Jack Kennedy was killed and we went into the Indochina War. We have never reversed that trend.
I understand. So what about this issue, sir? You talk about provocations. I was noticing that the Israeli papers reported that the folks that ran the Lavon affair, blowing up U.S. Movie theaters and things full of U.S. service people in Egypt to try to blame Egypt and start a big war. I noticed they were recently given awards. I know they've had, like I said, that publisher saying, you know, go after the president if he doesn't launch the wars. What about Israel or the British or other groups? We know Israel was created by the big banksters.
Israel as such is not a relevant problem in this case. You have an Israeli premier and a small circle of British stooges who are carrying the name of Israel against the objections of traditional leaders of Israel. The leading traditional leaders of Israel up to this point have all opposed this kind of operation, including against, you know, Iran and so forth. They're against it.
What's going to happen if Iran gets attacked?
Well, if Iran gets attacked, that's intended by the British to be the trigger used to launch the war. It depends on the point at which the British are able to get a secure control over ordering, through the President of the United States, ordering the launching of World War III as a thermonuclear war concentrated in Asia, but not limited to Asia.
Well, I've noticed they've moved the force to Asia, the naval and nuke forces, but the Russians and people are starting to concentrate in the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf and Syria. But I guess they're thinking China's going to come in to back up Iran.
No, it's different. It's a whole package. The whole Asia-centered package is one package of nations. Russia, China, India, and other leading nations, Japan, Korea, and so forth, who want no part of this policy.
No, I understand. They're not going along. I mean, I know they're moving the fleets and the troops there and to Australia, but what I'm saying is I see a lot of conflict in the Middle East, too. How does that kick off stuff in Asia? What's their excuse?
All that Middle East case, that problem now, is all comes from Britain, number one, and it comes from our presidency, the Obama presidency. That's the cause of all the Middle East problems right now.
All right, I want to ask you when we come back and then take a few calls, how are they planning on starting a war with the communist Chinese then? We'll be right back.
You don't need me to tell you that humanity...
All right, I'm going to do 5 minutes of overdrive, and hopefully Lyndon LaRouche can stay with us. I forgot to ask him during the break, but I will get to some of the calls there. I want to talk to Mr. LaRouche, folks like Dan and Teeny and others, and I'll try to get to everybody else that's there. But I was thinking about the psychology, say, of Don Corzine, Obama's big financial advisor, stealing $1.2 billion. Now they've announced they're going to keep it, because he lost a 40-to-1 bet. The hubris level, the chutzpah level, the bravado level, whatever you want to call it, the megalomania level, I don't ever get people that just think they're 100% bulletproof. Maybe when I was 14 years old. But I just don't get these guys that have all this power. I mean, I've got a little bit of power with millions of listeners, and it kind of is a big responsibility, freaks me out. I try to be more careful about what I say because, I realize that it affects things. But there's this opposite where you have all these madmen running things who make 40-to-1 bets, and I don't know how they think they're going to make it through a big nuclear war. They're just crazy.
Well, the Corzine case, as I know it, would give you the answer to that. Corzine is not a thief. He's not a bad person. But he came up as a person seeking or impulse for a career. He took the career he had available to him, and what he did as a banker was what was accepted in that time, and is accepted generally.
I know, that's what I mean. It's reckless to make 40-to-1 bets with other people's money.
Of course it is, but the point is that's the system now.